Okay, I will start for this event today. Untuk audiens, suara saya udah terdengar belum?
Sudah.
Okay. Okay, I will start for this event today, ladies and gentlemen. As we're about to begin, I would like to seek your cooperation in completing this event. Kindly ensure your microphone is Zoom is mute to avoid interruption. Thank you for your keen cooperation attention to this. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for visiting lecture on the topic, the system of calculation and payment in condition of martial law in Ukraine. I'm Novita from STEKOM University in Indonesia, your host for today. And welcome to our special guest today. Welcome the Honorable Associate Professor Valentyna Borkovska, PhD, as a Associate Professor, Educational and Scientific, Institute of Business and Finance, Department of Accounting, Taxation, and a Business Technology from Higher Educational Institution, Podillia State University in Ukraine. Also, and before we begin, I will share the schedule for today. First, we will listening presentation from Professor Valentyna, and then go to in the Q&A session, and then the time is closing. Thank you. Yeah, maybe we will start for this presentation today. Yeah, for Professor Valentyna, the time is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Let me introduce myself. Valentyna Borkovska, PhD in Economics, Higher Educational Institution, Podillia State University. And today I'd like to present you the topic, local taxes, the system of calculation and payment under the condition of martial law in Ukraine. Can I share my presentation, please, if it is possible? Yeah. Can you have a look? Is everything okay?
Yes, it's everything okay.
Okay. So some words about our situation and about our city. So we are living in a beautiful historical and touristic city, Kamenets-Podolsky, with 100,000 population. After the process of decentralization, we have now new amalgamated community plus 12 villages, so we are a little bigger. As you know, since the 21st of February, we are living under the condition of a martial law. We survive under Russian aggression and fight for our independence. Because of bombing, a lot of Ukrainians were forced to flee their native cities, towns, villages, and to find safe places. For example, our Kamenets-Podolsky amalgamated community hosted about 30,000 of eternal displaced persons. With aim to providing this eternal displaced person with necessary products, so food, clothes, educational and medical services, and the most important, housing, we should work, pay taxes, and fill our local budget. So that's why this topic is very important for nowadays, and we start from the very beginning. Please have a look at the slide number 2. The following list of local taxes and fees is valid today in Ukraine and in our community. The first one, property tax, including tax of immovable property other than land fee, and transport tax. The next one, fee for vehicle parking spaces. The next one, tourist tax and flat tax. Also, I present you like a little scheme when you can see the total sum for the last year according to each topic. So you can see again, flat tax, touristic tax, fee for vehicle parking spaces, transport tax, and property tax. Also, we have income tax of individual, and land tax, flat tax, excise tax. This is the most important sources of filling of the general fund of the community budget. So let's start with the local taxes and fees, mandatory taxes and taxes according to the decision of the specialized commission. So this is such kind of qualification according to our legislative. The first one, mandatory flat tax, land fee and transport tax, and according to the decision of specialized commission, tax on property, tourist fee, fee for parking spaces. So legislative basis for the establishment of local taxes and fees. Article 143 of the Constitution of Ukraine grants local city council the right to establish local taxes and fees. In accordance with the Clause 24 law local self-government, these issues are resolved exclusively at plenary meeting of the villages, settlement and city council. It means our Kamenets-Podilsky City Council. Local councils must establish a flat tax and property tax. Questions regarding the establishment of property tax and establishment of a fee for parking spaces for vehicle and a tourist tax are decided by local councils within the limits of their powers determined by Tax Code of Ukraine. And important information that establishment of local taxes and fees not provided by the Tax Code of Ukraine, it is prohibited. It is only according to the decision of our local city council. So the decision to establish local taxes and fees is a regulatory act. It's a very important document. Therefore, the adoption of a decision on the establishment of local taxes and fees is subject to the law, the name of the law on the principles of state regulatory policy in the field of economic activity. Next slide, it's about interaction about society and between Department of Economic, Financial Department and Permanent Active Profile Commission. So participation in the implementation of state regulatory policy within the limits and the manner established by the law of Ukraine on the principles of state regulatory policy in the field of economic activity. The development of the draft or project regulatory act is a regulatory institution, organization, person or group of persons authorized by develop, organize, direct and coordinate activities for the development of the draft regulatory act. So let's start from the very important tax. It's a land tax. And as usual, I propose you to start classification with tax base, object of taxation, and tax rate. If you have any questions, you are welcome. So I'll be ready. So the first one, tax base for the land tax. There are owners of land plots, land shares, and land users when we are not talking only about owners. The next one, tax base. Tax base normative monetary valuation, or in other words, we are saying assessment of land plots, taking into account, of course, the indexation coefficient. The area of land plots, the normative monetary assessment of which has not been carried out. We have a lot of land like this. So the next one, the object of taxation. The object of taxation, there are land plots owned or used or land plots owned. So very important when we are talking about tax rates. For the land plots, for example, the normative monetary assessment which has not been carried out. So there are no more than 3% of the assessment land plots. For example, for public lands, there is no more than 1% of their normative assessment. For agricultural land, there is from 0.3% to 1% of their normative assessment. For forest lands, no more than 0.1% of the assessment. For land plots that are in permanent use by business, for example, entities, it's about no more than 12 of the normative assessment. As for the land plots located outside settlements, which normative monetary assessment have not been surveyed, it's for land plots no more than 5% of the assessment unit of arable land in region. You know, we have a lot of arable land. It's like a gold for our country. Also for agricultural land, from 0.3 to 5% of normative assessment unit of arable land is the region. And for forest land, no more than 0.1% of normative assessment unit of arable land in the region. So the next one, land red, it's very important part of filling our local budget. So about the process, executive authorities and local government must submit to controlling institutions the list of tenants with whom land lease agreements have been concluded for current year by February the 1st. The rent may exceed 12% in such case in case of land auctions, if we have auctions. The basis for calculation rent for a plot of land is a lease agreement for such a plot of land. The annual amount of the rent is set with the range from the amount of land tax to 12% of a normative monetary assessment. The change in the annual amount of the rent depends on the approval of the new normative assessment in the settlement and on the value of indexation coefficient of the monetary normative evaluation assessment of the land to which assessment is indexed. So in general, the amounts of rent must be uniform for one type of targeted land use. It's according to the law of Ukraine on protection economic competition. So another tax, flat tax, basic principle of flat tax administration. And first of all, as usually we are talking on previous slides, it's about taxpayers, tax base, object of taxation, tax rates, and tax period. So this flat depends on the group of entrepreneurs. For example, as for first group, taxpayers are private persons, are entrepreneurs. They do not use the labor of hired person, and amount of income does not exceed 1 million hryvnia. The tax rates for such kind of group is up to 10% of the living wage, and tax period is usual calendar year. For the second group, taxpayers are private persons, are entrepreneurs. The number of employees doesn't exceed 10. The amount of income does not exceed 5 million hryvnia, and tax rates up to 20% of the minimum wage. For the group number 3, taxpayers, private persons, entrepreneurs, and legal entities, LTD, it means the number of hired person is not limited, so a lot of hired person. The amount of income does not exceed 7 million hryvnia. Tax base for group number 3, there is income received by the payers. An object of taxation, the amount of the payer's income. Tax rate, it's about 3% of income for VAT payers and 5% of income for VAT non-payers. So it depends from another tax, of course. And the group number 4, taxpayers are agricultural producers. The share of income from the sale of agricultural products is 75% or more. This is very important condition. So tax base, the area of agricultural land and or water fund land, object of taxation, normative monetary assessment for 1 hectare of agricultural land, taking into account the indexation coefficient as of January the 1st, the base reporting year. Tax rates, these are arable land, pastures, hayfields. It's about 0.95% of the normative monetary value. Multi-year planting, it's about 0.57% of the normative monetary value. Water fund land, it's about 2.43% of the nominal monetary value, 1 hectare of arable land. Also, land used in the condition of closed soil, it's about 6.33% of the nominal monetary value for 1 hectare of arable land. So it's a little bit difficult because a lot of classification, but still it is very important for every entrepreneur, and everyone can choose what they want. So in general, flat tax rates in the previous year, rates according to the tax code of Ukraine, up to 10% of living wage. Last year it was 10%, it was 227, and up to 20 of minimum salary, according to the data of minimum salary last year, 20%, it was 1,200 hryvnia. Current rates, according to the decision group number 1, from 8 to 10 for living wage, and group number 2 from 7 to 10. From the living wage for arable-bodied person on January 1st of the reporting tax period, it was 2,270 hryvnias. From the minimum wage on the January 1st of reporting year, it means year 2021 period, it was 6,000 hryvnia. As for now, for example, minimum wage 6,700. So it's not a very big difference, but still it means a lot. So the next tax that is very important for filling our local budget, it's a tax on real estate other than land. And again, the classification: taxpayers, object of taxation, tax base. The tax base for residential and non-residential real estate object. So the first one, taxpayers. They are private entrepreneurs and LTD who are owners of residential or non-residential real estate objects. Object of taxation. In such case, we are talking about object of residential and non-residential real estate, including its share. The categories of real estate objects that are not subject to taxation and are not subject to real estate tax other than a land plot are defined in clause, of course, art of the tax code in Ukraine. So this tax is according to the tax code of Ukraine. About tax base, the total area of the object of residential and non-residential real estate, including its share. So the tax base for residential and non-residential real estate object, including their share, is calculated per object, which are owned by first private persons, is calculated by the controlling body on the basis of the data of the state register of property rights to immovable property, which are provided free of charge by the authorities of the state registration of rights to immovable property and on the basis of the original of relevant documents of the taxpayer, in particular ownership documents. Also, is calculated per objects that are owned by legal entities. For example, its LTD is calculated by such entities independently, based on the total area of each separate object of taxation on the basis of documents confirming ownership of such an object. So as you can see, the first one, you can prove or confirm your ownership, and then we'll start from the tax base, object, and taxpayers. The next one, property tax rates. So in data, so property tax rates are established by the decision of the relevant council depending on the location, zoning, and types of real estate object. This process of zoning depends on the decision of local city council. So this is very important for our city. The amount of the rate does not exceed 1.5% of the minimum wage established by law on January 1st of the reporting tax year for 1 square meter of the tax base. It was last year, it was 90 hryvnia. The amount of tax increases by 25,000 hryvnia per year for each residential object whose area exceed 300 square meters for an apartment and 500 square meters for the house. Everything this is according to the tax code in Ukraine, as you can see. So the next slide, we can see transport tax. Transport tax is very important for our local budget. So again, we can start from the tax base, object of taxation, and tax base and tax rate. So about taxpayers, natural and legal persons who have their own passenger cars registered in Ukraine in accordance with current legislation which is subject to taxation. Object of taxation, cars that meet these requirements. And the first one, no more than 5 years have been passed since the year of graduation. The next one, the average market value of which is more than 375 times the minimum wage established by the law on January 1st of the reporting year. Also tax base. Tax base, the basic of taxation is the passenger car, which is the object of taxation. Tax rate, 25,000 Ukrainian hryvnia per year for each passenger car subject to taxation. Every year until February 1st, Ministry of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine publishes on its official website a list of passenger cars that meet the criteria object of taxation. So we have some people that have such kind of cars and they are under taxation. The next local tax is a touristic tax. It's very important for us as if we're a touristic city and hosted a lot of people, eternal displaced people, but it's another story. It's all about volunteering, and also we are welcome to meet a tourist from all over the world, even if we are under martial law, but still it's safe in our city at that moment. So again, when we are talking about tax, we should talk about payers, tax rate, tax base, tax agent and places of residence, and collection, how it can be done. So about payers. Payers of the tax are citizens of Ukraine, of course, also can be foreigners, as well as stateless persons who arrive on the territory of administrative territorial union on which the decision of the council on the establishment of the tourist tax applies and are temporarily accommodated in places of residence. It can be hotel, hostel, and so on. Tax raised. For each day of temporary accommodation of a person in places of residence overnight in the amount of up to 0.5%, it's about 30 Ukrainian hryvnia. For domestic tourists and up to 5%, it's about 300 for inbound tourists from the amount of the minimum wage established by law on January 1st of the reporting tax year for one person and for 1 day of temporary accommodation. The next one about tax base, it's a total number of days. So how long are you going to stay of temporary accommodation in places of residence, overnight staying, it means. So when we are talking about tourist tax, we should talk about tax agent and places of residence. So who will pay or who will administrate them? There are hotels, camping sites, motels, hostels for visitors, rest houses, tourist bases, mountain shelters, rest camp, boarding houses, and other hotel type establishments, health resorts, for example. Also residential business, annex to residential business, apartment, cottage, room, garden house, country house, and other object used to the temporary accommodation. So collection. Collection can be done by LTD and private entrepreneurs that provide services for temporary accommodation of persons in places of residence. It means overnight accommodation. Also, apartment brokerage organizations that send unorganized persons for purpose of their temporary accommodation in places of residence, lodging, for example. owned by natural persons on the right of use under a lease agreement. So we have this lease agreement. Also, LTD, which are authorized by the Council to make the collection under terms of the contract concluded with the respective Council. Also, the list of tax agents and information about them is posted and made public on the official website of the City Council. If, for example, if now we could check the list of this agent, we can see a lot of entrepreneurs and legislative entities and hotels and hostel and others. So it's in addition like presentation of our city and our touristic service. The next one, tax, it is very important for filling our local budget. It's a fee for vehicle parking places. You know, it's very important for all over the world, and our community is one of them. We have a lot of cars, we have a lot of transport, especially after eternal displaced person come from all over the Ukraine. So it's very important. And again, about pays. Pays of the fee are LTDs, their branches, departments, representative offices, private entrepreneurs, which in accordance with the Council's decision, organize and carry out activities to ensure the parking of vehicle at paid parking lots, and especially designated parking lots. Tax rate. They are set for each day of the activity of ensuring the parking of vehicle in hryvnia for 1 square meter of the area of the land plot allocated for the organization and implementation of such activities in the amount of up to 0.075%. It's about 5 hryvnia, 4.5 hryvnia. Of the minimum wage established by the law, of course, on January 1st of the tax reporting year. I remind you that we are talking, all examples, we are talking about previous year, 2021. The next one, tax base. Tax base is the area of land allocated for parking, as well as the area of communal garages, parking lots. It means buildings, structures, their parts, which were built at the expense of the local budget. So the object of taxation, a plot of land which, according to the decision of the council, is specially allocated to ensure the parking of vehicle on public roads. It's very important. Also sidewalks or other places, as well as communal garages, parking lots, and so on, which were built at the expense of local budget, with the exception of the area of the land plot which is allocated for free parking. We have a lot of free parking of vehicles provided for in Article 30 of Law of Ukraine on the basis of social protection of persons with disabilities in Ukraine. And so the next one about specifics or features of setting the fee. So the fee rate and the procedure for paying the fee to the budget are established by the relevant council. A fee is paid quarterly for the allocation of the taxable object. So this is general information, but as I mentioned before, we are living and surviving Russian aggression. We are living under condition of martial law since the 24th of February, and we have a preferential system of taxation and tax benefits for mobilized private entrepreneurs. So mobilized private entrepreneurs are exempted from the calculation and payment of personal income tax and the flat tax, as well as reporting. This is regulated by Clause 25, subsection 10 of the Tax Code of Ukraine. Mobilized military personnel who do not use the labor of hired workers are exempted from payment of flat social contribution for themselves for the entire period of military services and from the submitting reports. At the same time, in wartime condition, all business entities are exempted from financial responsibility for tax offenses and violations of other legislation, the control of compliance with which is entrusted to controlling authorities in connection with the occurrence of force majeure circumstances satisfied by the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Ukraine, which has been started, as I said, since February 24. So, you know, we survived difficult times, and we want to thank you, everyone, and every country and every person, every volunteer who helped us to survive this terrible war, this terrible aggression. And still, we believe that our victory is coming, and we respect every nation, and thank you for respect our nation. And as for my presentation, I'd like to thank you for your attention and invite to our beautiful city, visit our beautiful castle, enjoy our nature. I invite you to our university to visit our lectures, to visit our student, our scientific process in general, to join to scientific researchers. As for me, my scientific research related to accounting and taxation, and I'll be glad to join to your scientific research too. So if you have any questions about the system of taxation in our country, about local taxes, about the establishment, calculating, payment, reporting, and so on, you're welcome. I'll be glad to answer all your questions. Thank you for attention.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. It's an amazing and wonderful presentation. Yeah, maybe for our audience, if you wanna ask question, you can raise in you can raise hand, or you can write in room chat. Thank you. Okay, I will give question from audience in a YouTube. Yeah, first question from Fabiana. Where do the costs for the soldiers in Ukraine come from? Does the state provide the cost for the soldiers or from other resources? Sorry, your voice still mute. Means-
Can you repeat once again, because internet connection is not so good? Sometimes and you know this alarm system, and I didn't hear you. So can you repeat once again, or maybe it's better to write a question.
I'm writing in a room chat.
I see some questions. For example, if you don't mind, I will answer. Are many businesses closed in Ukraine due to the impact of the war? Does it have any impact on the country's economy? Yes, of course, it had an impact, especially in this east part of Ukraine, where a lot of territories, a lot of universities, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of LTD were damaged, and the real estate were damaged, the equipment were damaged, and they were forced to flee to our, for example, to our part of Ukraine. So as I mentioned before, we hosted about, can you imagine, 20,000 of Ukrainian, and it's a very big amount for our community, and a lot of all volunteers were involved. Also, a lot of our entrepreneurs take their all forces just to help these people with food providing, with clothing, with, and the most important, with hosting them. For example, our university present our dorm for 2 universities from east of Ukraine. And yeah, it's a terrible situation, but we are a brave nation, we are surviving, and a lot of people, all the world community helping us. And also with this eternal displaced person moved to our city, relocated a lot of business. So it's an additional possibility, as I'm talking about our community, additional possibility to develop different spheres of business. And it's a possibility for people to be hired, to have a job, and to pay taxes again. So of course, a lot of businesses were damaged, but in Ukraine, in this part where it's real fighting, we are blessed, and our main position to host people, to help people. Of course, there is no place in Ukraine where it is safe. You can understand it, because this alarm always, and we are under stress, and we don't know what will be the next moment. And this is a very good situation now that we still have everything to provide this lecture. And but we should manage it. We should manage it, because we believe in our victory. The victory is coming, and of course there are a lot of men and women also that are protecting and fighting, like a member of our army. But yes, Ukraine provide all these fees, all these expenses around it, and they have first of all, their patriotism. They believe in our country, in our nation. That's the most important, and the truth with us, because we are protecting our land. We are not on other land or in other country, you know. So what should the government do if a company has not paid taxes for years? Is there any penalty or punishment for the company? Yes, in general, we have any penalty or punishment. But as I said, as we are living under martial law, and according to the position that force majeure, you know, circumstances, so there is no punishment at that moment. There is no punishment at that moment. But I think that our people are so engaged in this process, have to fill the local budget, have to help these people that we can see in our community now, have to provide with educational and medical and other services, that there is no need to force them to pay something. They are volunteering, they are filling our budget how they can. When we are talking about entrepreneurs, they are paying taxes. When we are talking like about ordinary people, they are bringing clothes, they are bringing food, they are inviting people to their house. So we are together. That's the main idea. We are not alone.
Okay.
So
Okay, thank you for your answering. It's a very helpful for answer the question from audience, and then we have a question from audience. This is from students STEKOM University. Yeah, for Mr. Sam, the time is yours. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure for me to have a conversation with you.
Hello, my name is, let me introduce my name first. My name is Sam, and I'm a student from STEKOM University. And I have two questions. And the first question is, is Ukraine still at war now? What I want to know is how the government prepares the budget for the military. And the second, are there any donations from some countries to help Ukraine in overcoming and fighting this war? Maybe that's all my questions for Mrs. Valentyna. Thank you and my pleasure.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your question. Of course, Ukraine are not alone in this surviving. We are surviving this Russia aggression. We are in a real war, and I want to all world society to know it, that we are protecting our nation, we are protecting our identity, we are protecting our independence, we are protecting our land, and as all of every one of you can protect your home, I think your family, your roots, and everything, your culture, and it's very important, I know, for every person. And of course, our government have a lot of program for supporting military in general. And of course, first time our men and women decided to protect our country, and came to fight to east of Ukraine, first of all. And they have saving their average salary. For example, if they were working at the university or working in LTD or in other sphere, they have their average salary. And plus they have some incomes like a salary for protecting their country. So they have necessary all equipment, clothing, and everything to protect our country. And of course, we are not alone. A lot of countries and our neighbors and all over the world helping us, but they are helping us like sharing information about us, talking about us, do not forget about us, creating a lot of different kind of project. They supporting us with with money, they supporting us with different kind of things, but they the main idea that they understand us and they are ready to fight for our values, like European values, like it means our independence, our culture, respect each other, respect our bodies. So I think everyone wants to be free, everyone want to be independent, everyone wants to be respected. So the same with us. And the main idea is that we are not alone. I want you to know it. Thank you,
Okay,
Sam.
I got it. Thanks for answering my questions, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay.
You for the time for give a thank you for your time to give presentation to our student. Yeah, I hope in Ukraine will be everything will be okay and this war will be ended. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we don't have no more question again from our audience. May I go to closing session, Miss?
If you have any questions, you are welcome, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe for our audience, if you wanna ask question again, you can raise in your hand or write in the chat. We will waiting for a few minutes. Ya, mungkin jika audiens ingin bertanya bisa langsung raise hand atau menulis lagi di kolom chat. Okay, I think we don't have no more question again, Miss. Yeah, I will go to session for closing. Yeah, before we go to session for closing, may we have take a picture for documentation? Okay, maybe for all audience. Yeah. Yeah. For all audience, you will turn on your
Oke.
camera.
Ambil alih dari sini ya, Mbak, biar pada paham. Oke, bagi yang belum mengaktifkan kameranya, bisa diaktifkan terlebih dahulu agar kita bisa foto bersama.
Yeah, maybe for our audience, if we will capture for picture, yeah, so please turn on your camera. Thank you.
Oke. Ya, oke. 1, 2, 3.
1 and 2, 3.
Oke, sekali lagi.
One more time.
1,
1,
2, 3.
2, 3.
Oke, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for us, Professor Valentyna, for give your time. It's a very beneficial to us, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. It's a very beneficial. I hope we can meet again in other event in the next future and some other collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure for me to take part in this webinars. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Thank you,
Professor.
Thank you,
Thanks
Miss.
for our audience. Mbak, jangan dimatiin dulu.
Ya, boleh. Ya,